Welcome, guys, to another episode of our podcast here at the Word on the Street. Today, we're going to be looking at, we're going through a series of Genesis. And today, we're just going to be looking at the first chapter of Genesis, the story of creation, its meaning, and how what it represents for us in the 21st centuries. And there's a few interesting points that we'll have to talk about because creation can be very contentious, even within in the Christianity community. But let me hand over to my buddy and friend, and
buddy and friend, okay.
Hawking, who will be leading our discussion today.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that, Benji. Newly wedded Benjamin Bakina.
Yeah.
He's a whole husband, you know.
I left my wedding ring in the kitchen.
Husband wearing wedding ring. Okay. I take back what I said. But, so we're going to be looking at the book of Genesis, and I think the first story we're starting with is the story of creation, you know. So we see like Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. Do you know what it is?
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
Yes, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And for those, obviously, we can't assume that all our viewers know, you know, the sequence of creation and how things were created. So are you able to enlighten me now with some Bible knowledge? We're going to go day by day so that you can tell people, you know, what God created on each day.
I'm going to be hold up my hand and say that's something for a quiz that I will need. But we can look at it.
There you go. Okay. Let's go. Day one. What did God create on day one? You can cheat if you want.
Yeah, I am going to cheat. Day one, he said, let there be light, right?
Uh-huh.
Let there be light. And the earth there was darkness hovering over it, and God separated the darkness from the light and created the light and the darkness, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's pretty much it. Nothing really happened.
Day one, yeah. Day two.
Okay. Sky and the waters. The sky.
You know, you've done Pathfinder. You should know this.
For people who don't know Pathfinder, it's like Scouts. Yeah.
Yes, like Scouts.
I'll be terrible at a Bible quiz.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll be terrible at Bible quiz. So yeah, Genesis 1 verse 6 to 8 created the skies and the waters. He called the expanses, called them heavens.
Yeah.
And then, do you want me to go through all the days?
Yeah, we'll go through all the days for those that may not be aware, you know.
So day 3, land, seas, and vegetation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's in Genesis 1, 9 to 13. And then from 14 to 19, sun, moon, and stars.
Yeah.
That's what he created. That was day 4. Day 5, birds and sea.
Mm-hmm.
And sea creatures. Day 6, land animals and humanity. And then on day 7, he rested.
He rested, yes. Thank you very much for that. I would say you go 100%, but, you know, you have to cheat a little bit. But, you know, we live in the internet age. You can look and cheat a little bit if you want. So we're looking in the context of creation. And I think one of the important things here, when we read the book of Genesis and look at the creation, we see that when God created everything, it says everything was good. And then the important way of how he created everything. You know how he created everything? What did he use?
He spoke it into existence.
He spoke it into existence. So it was like, you know, let there be light, let the land and the vegetation. And when you hear this, how do you think that unfolded? In my head, I imagine that, you know, there's nothing, and, you know, like how they show in movies and, you know, things coming out of nowhere and God, you know, like the people or like the creatures and all that. So literally, that's what I imagine it being in my head. How do you envision it?
I've never actually thought about it.
You've never thought about it?
I've never actually thought about it. But can him do things spontaneously just appear? He says something and bang.
Yeah.
A lamb is there. A lion is there. Obviously, with man, he formed us from the earth, right?
Yeah.
So that one, I can sort of imagine it. It's like, you can imagine something like a pot or something.
Just molding.
Molding something. And then once he molded, he gives us the breath of life.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a man.
Yeah.
The others doesn't really go into detail, so can't really say.
Because when you think of especially if you look at all the complexity of the world that we live in, you look at all the plants that we have, you look at all the different bacteria, microorganisms, all the different fishes that even live like on the ground of the sea, on the, what's it called, seabed?
Yeah, seafloor, seabed.
Seabed, seafloor. Like you can imagine, God said, let there be fish. Or let there be, you know, animals that walk the land. He didn't say, let there be a lion, let there be a thing. So it's almost like no human being could have imagined those things. Like sometimes we say like people create, or we look at the age of AI and we see like we're creating or inventing new things. I don't think as we are currently, human beings don't even ever, we can actually imagine and create such things. We always need a template to work off. So do you think God had a template that he was working off for him to create the earth, or was it just something he just spoke and it just happened?
I would probably like to say that God has the biggest imagination, because now we can imagine a lion, right?
Yeah.
But try and imagine a new animal. Normally, especially if you look at movies, when they try to create new creatures, it's always a combination of something, right?
Yeah.
A dragon. Again, dragons, the way we would describe it, because we have some descriptions of dragon beings in the Bible. So they probably lifted off that and then put dragons in there and so on. What's a mythical creature?
Harry Potter has lots of them. Lord of the Rings has
Lord of the Rings are.
Yeah.
But usually they're a combination of, they look like a combination of something.
Yeah.
Of an animal that we already know. Like, yeah.
It's never something that is completely new. And I think I'd like us to take a moment to appreciate that, with all the complexity that is in creation, everything that's there, everything God created was new. It wasn't based off a template. And also gives to that thing of purposeful design. It was intentional. It wasn't accidental, as, we may come later to discuss today. So I wanted to, I guess, look at some of the themes that are coming out of this story. So the first one is essentially creation by divine word. We talked about God, speaking things into existence. So what does that bring to your mind as a Christian when you think about God? He uses divine word to create everything here that we have.
It's a bit of a strange question, because again, these are not things
these are not things I think about.
When I look at creation now, and we're probably going to talk about, when I think about creation, other things come out, and we're both into science, so that's where I lean more to when I come to creation. But this just highlights that that God can create, doesn't need to. He can do whatever he wants, right? He can create anything from out of nothing.
Yeah.
Us here as humans, in order to create something, we need to have something. We can't just spontaneously create something. Even, for example, like, people who are growing these lab-grown meats that people are going into, right? Then we don't spontaneously create them. We get cells from somewhere and so on.
Use something and bring something together.
Yeah.
I think you said it there. I think what we're trying to highlight here is the power that God has as an individual, or not, I wouldn't call him an individual, but he's a divine being. And I think we need to recognize that, when all he needs to do is speak and things come into existence. I think when we look at the story of creation, we just take it like, day one he made this, day two made this, but you actually we can't comprehend the power that it takes to speak something into existence. Imagine you, Benji, you're just there like, what, let this water or drink turn into apple juice, and it just turns into apple juice. Like, we can't comprehend that the power that God has. And I think that's one thing that this story draws out. The other thing is, not everything was created on one day. You see, God created everything step by step. Why is that? Why couldn't he say, let the earth be? Why did he need to create different days, create everything on different days? Have you ever asked yourself that question?
Again, not another question I've asked myself. But yeah, if you think about it, God can do anything. So he could have just said, let's create the earth and all living things, and done it all in one day.
Yeah.
But
why was there a need to split, to elongate the process into,
I think
6 days?
Genesis, the first chapter, I think the first chapter and the first 30 verses, they try to highlight how powerful God is. It's, if you just leave a line, God created the heavens and the earth, and you left it there, then you went on straight into Genesis chapter 2, which is when he starts rested from his work and did all of that stuff and created man, etc., etc. Then you'll be wondering, like, how did he do it?
Yeah.
How did he do it? I think one of the things that Genesis is trying to highlight, the power of God, like, he can he's methodical in the way he does things. He prepares everything.
Yes.
And his main aim was always to create man.
Yeah.
Like the end goal was to create man, but he prepared everything so that when man was created, everything was already there, available for them.
Yeah.
And in each day, we see the power.
Yes.
That he can divide light from darkness. He can divide the waters and the land to create the seas, the oceans, the skies, and all those sorts of things. Each day is trying to emphasize the power of God.
Yes.
And I think if you just left it in one line, you'd
be like, oh, yeah. He said, let there be earth, and the earth was.
Yeah.
And I think you pointed out one thing that I was trying to get to is the order and purposeful. So he wanted everything when God is involved in anything, there's order and there's purpose. It's not chaotic. Just like we say the world nothing was chaotic when you read those first few verses of Genesis 1. But from that chaos, he brought order and purpose. He brought living things. He brought, structure to the world instead of it being very chaotic. So first thing here, we've highlighted that God is a divine being and he has power to do whatever he wants. Second thing is that he's orderly and purposeful. Nothing that he's involved in is chaotic. Nothing that he's involved in serves no purpose. Everything is already thought of, is already designed for what it needs to be. So the last thing, obviously, what God created last was he has human beings. And every time I think about that, it's like, the world was already perfect. Like, you had the animals, when you think about the damage that us as human beings have done to the world, have done to each other, it's like, it's a God that we say God is omnipotent. Is that the right word? Like, he knows everything from start to the beginning. He transcends time itself.
Omnipotent, omniscient.
So why?
Yeah.
Is it omnipotent?
Omniscient, all-knowing.
All-knowing, yes, as well. English is not my first language, sorry. But anyway, why create human beings and why create them in his own image? Why? Have you ever thought of that? I'm guessing it's something you haven't thought about either.
I'm trying to find the verse where he says it directly, right?
It will be verse 26 to 27. Genesis 1, 26 to 27. Let's see if I can get it here. You want me to read it?
Yeah.
So Genesis 1, verses 26 to 27, says, Then God said, let us make man in our own image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish and the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them.
Well, the first thing that springs to mind is like God created mankind to reflect his own image, right? Just like he has dominion and rule over the universe, he gave them dominion and rule over the earth.
Yes.
A part of me likes to think that God he's not a lonely person, but probably he wanted people to talk to, people to I don't think, it's not like in the sense like when people to worship, but it's not in the sense like I am mightier than you. I need people who are below me to show so I can exercise my power.
Yes.
But I always see it, that's one of the things I do imagine. Like, I feel like God wanted a relationship. Like, so when he created people he created us in his own image, right? He wanted a reflection of him on earth. Yeah. Everything else was spoken. And then he took his time to form man from the ground because he wanted to make sure that there was somebody who reflected him, not divine like him, but was a reflection of the whole point of creation, because he gave man knowledge. Man could speak directly to God, which the other animals couldn't do, right? No other being. He gave him dominion to reflect the rulership that he had as well.
Yeah. And
he spoke to them. It wasn't just worship, let's go to church, let's review, but it's clear that he communicated, he walked in the garden with them, not physically. Well, maybe he came in a different form, right? But he was with them in the garden.
Commune with them, that's the word I say, commune with them. But how he communed with them maybe that's
Yeah.
either maybe I'm missing something or maybe it's not specifically said. If it is, leave a comment down and correct us. But I think some of the points you've said that, God wanted to create us someone or something or man in his own image, I think also shows the closeness that God wanted to have with us as individuals, as me and you, as Benji want to be close to you. He had to form you in his own image, had to use his own hand to form you.
Mm-hmm.
And also the other thing, when I was saying why did God bother to create human beings? I guess it does say here, he gave us responsibilities. He wanted someone to look after the beautiful world he created. So I like to imagine that he wanted someone to enjoy the beautiful creation he'd made. He didn't want it to just be there just for him to say.
Why didn't he just send some of the angels to look after the creation?
Yeah, they already had heaven. So maybe he wanted someone to. I like to say he wanted people to enjoy the creation, just like an artist. Some may paint. They don't just leave their paintings in their houses. They take them out to a gallery for everyone to view. So maybe in a certain way, God was trying to demonstrate his power to any other people around the universe, per se. Yeah, he was trying to demonstrate, like, look what as God can do, So I think we've touched on, God and his divine power. We've touched on that he's a God of order and a God of purpose. And out of that order and purpose, we see that, he also designed human beings by his own and said he molded us and he gave us all responsibilities here on earth, which we could go into a little bit deeper, but, we'll leave it for a little bit later in this discussion. So with all the topic around creation, obviously we know that it's not a straightforward topic. Not everyone agrees that
some people call it a fairy tale.
Some people call it a fairy tale. Even people that believe in God say it's not literal. So the first thing I want, tackle the elephant in the room is creation versus evolution. What are your thoughts?
There's some people who think that maybe they try to marry the two things together and say that, how physicists would say that there's a Big Bang.
Mm-hmm.
People say, so the question is asked, where did the Big Bang come from, right?
Yeah.
Where did it come from? Then people say, then God created the Big Bang. You get me? Just to marry so they can say...
It has to be a beginning to something.
So they can say there's a God, but also believing in the Big Bang. In the evolution and everything that went down. Look,
as a fellow scientist, what are your thoughts?
I personally, right, enjoy learning about evolution, right? I enjoy learning about it. Uh-huh. That may seem like blasphemy to some, but I've enjoyed learning about it. Like, it's so intriguing to see what the theories that people put out there, right? How they see how they see the universe has evolved, and there's this YouTube channel called Kurzgesagt. I can't remember. I have a book. I have an immunology book that they wrote, right? But they do other things, and they always do this great videos on not evolution per se, but on the universe, how the universe came about, and there's many theories like maybe the Big Bang came because it's from another black hole. Maybe we're inside a black hole, and so on. So I find this very, very fascinating, and I think one thing I just want to make sure, I think it's important that Christians know whether they know what the other side of the argument is. Mm-hmm. There's no point in just being blinded to your own opinions, to your own side. When you go and then have a chat with somebody who believes contrary to you, if you have no idea what they believe, how are you ever going to have a discussion? It's just going to be like, that's wrong. Yeah. That's wrong. So I learned because I'm fascinated by it, but also I feel like I need to know that side.
Does it add extra, let's say, what's the word? Again, English is not my first language. I'm just messing. Does it add like extra gravity to your belief in creation by knowing what the other side believes? Let's say in the Big Bang and evolution, does that strengthen your faith in creation or your belief in creation? Okay, maybe a more direct question. Do you believe that creation is the way that we came into the world?
100%.
Or do you think there's a play in evolution and the Big Bang are all intertwined?
Look, I'm not a physicist and I'm not an evolutionary biologist, right? So people correct me in the comments when I'm wrong, right? Evolution is one term to describe many things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Many things. And one of the things that I get from evolution when we're looking at it is that life has a way of adapting.
Yeah.
To coin a term from Jurassic Park, I can't remember that says life finds a way. Yeah. And we've both been in labs. We've seen how, let's say, bacteria, right? If they're put in an environment, right, where with an antibiotic, they'll die. First of all, they'll die, a mass of them. But over time, it takes one cell, it'll then adapt.
Yeah.
You find a way, adapt, and then become resistant. And so you have things like MRSA, right?
Yeah.
So, there's some intricacy within evolution, like small parts, like adaptation, like creatures adapt to their environment. Obviously, maybe not to the extent where their features change. You get me? They
become a new creature.
They become a complete new creature. That I think.
Because that's why evolution goes saying we started from, is it Neanderthal?
Single cell organism until
we became human.
So again, we're not evolutionary biologists, right? So that you can learn from it. Like, look, animals even human beings, whatever environment they're in, they'll adapt, but we don't change. It's not like we're gonna change drastically. Oh, maybe one of the best example, maybe not best example, an example that comes to mind. So I was in Japan, right? And they were talking about samurais. And they were saying the average samurai was 5'5".
Okay.
They were, bro.
That's not how we picture samurais.
You're already tall, right? You're about 6 foot, right? I'm about 5'7". I would have been considered a giant among samurais, a giant, right? Imagine you'd have been like, whoa, is this
someone
Goliath? But over time, the average height of the humans of humanity has increased. Has increased in Japan. The average height has gone up because diet, nutrition, everything has changed.
Yeah.
And we've adapted to the way we live and so on. So those things do happen, but we don't transform. We didn't completely transform into different creatures, which is where it's hard to believe when it comes to evolution. And people will say the same thing. It's hard to believe that there's a divine being
creating everything.
Just saying, creating everything. Because on one end, we'll say, how can this go from this to that? People say dinosaurs are still with us because now birds are the closest relative to dinosaurs because some of them, whatever happened there, the birds are their closest relative, their ancestors.
Yeah.
I don't know in any way in your mind you can imagine something just evolving. It sounds Pokemon style. Not to insult anybody.
Yeah, no, that's understandable.
On the other side, what we believe, it's hard to believe.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, both of them take faith because none of us were there and we're all just, looking from a standpoint of we're being told a story of what happened back then. So none of the evolution people that believe in evolution were there when things started evolving. They just based it on someone that is saying this is how things evolved over millions and billions and trillions of years. Those figures keep on changing depending on who you talk to. But also none of us were there when creation happened. So what I find interesting is people are so quick to ridicule or put creation in the bin because they think it's impossible or there's no way there's this big being that spoke things into existence. But I think both of those theories require a lot of faith to believe in because you can't prove that, we came from, well, maybe research there may say, you can be like, oh, this is how it happened. But none of us were actually there. No individual today.
And there's no written account.
Actually there.
There's no written account.
There's no written account of, these things happening. You can look at people's, they look at people's body, like how it's set up, saying, this is a creature from this back then, this is a creature from that, this is how it changed. And that's why I think I go to say, the fact that there's similar traits in every single one of these creatures, to come up with a theory of evolution just shows that there's a creator with the same mindset. It's like almost having a trademark. So when someone is creating something, they always show intentional design. So the fact that they're able to trace all this heritage, seeming like, everything is coming from the same ancestor, from this. For me, it further strengthens the theory, on the theory, it further strengthens creation because it shows for all of these things to have similar heritage, even with your research that you're going, that someone had to create it, and that someone had to have those similar characteristics or traits that they put within all these individual things.
What would you say to those people say that creation requires more faith than evolution? Because some people be like, yeah, we can tell how old the Earth is because of carbon dating. So there's scientific evidence that shows us carbon dating. There's fossils that, and when you look at
even carbon dating is not an exact science. So Benji, how would you wrap up this conversation of creation past evolution or Big Bang?
I don't know. I don't think there's a way to like look. There will never be any agreement because sometimes I even go in YouTube comment sections, right, when people are discussing exactly the same thing at the YouTube channel that I go to, and people the first thing some of the comments I see is always discrediting Christianity in the story of creation.
Mhm.
That's a fairy tale. That's mumbo jumbo and so on. And it gets me angry sometimes. That I think, yo, I wish Jesus would just come right now, and I wish to see the faces on all these people when Jesus turns up and they're like, I was wrong all this time. I'll be like, I told you so.
Mm-hmm.
Probably I would then be chucked down. I'll not be working up with Jesus because
You'll just be along with them.
but what I can say is that it's important for Christians to know the other side of the argument.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need to know it into detail. They don't need to be physicists, evolutionary biologists. But don't just dismiss something because you don't believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
Learn why somebody believes in that thing,
Uh-huh.
and learn some of the intricacies behind that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Get yourself educated.
Yes.
Otherwise, what are you gonna go and talk to somebody who believes in evolution? What are you gonna say to them?
And you need to know, you need to understand their thinking and their process for you to be able to reach out to them.
Yeah.
And enlighten them with the truth that you have. So I think the conversation on creation versus evolution could go on forever, and it's been going on forever. But I think, as I said, it's important for us as Christians to also be educated on that. And also, when you look at creation, everything's just there's too much detail in this world for it to have been by chance, or to have been left
too intricate
to just the natures of this world. Everything's designed.
Just to add something like, one thing that blows my mind is when I was doing immunology, I'm like, yo, there is no way your immune system is just randomly an accident, a byproduct of survival of the fittest.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too well designed for there not to have been an intelligent designer behind it.
Yes.
But at the same time, about us being well educated, I think people need to realize there are people there who do not believe in Christianity, who probably know more about Christianity than we know about what they believe.
Yes.
So get yourself educated. But yeah, like you said, everything is too well designed for it to have been an accident or a product of of survival of the fittest, or evolutionary pressures causing you to evolve in one way.
Yeah, no, completely. So I think moving on from that, this is now the other let's say controversy, no major controversy that comes in with the story of creation. This is within the Christian setting, because we've seen what the worldly setting is like, creation, and the counterfeit of that is evolution and the Big Bang. But within the actual Christian setting, there's a debate that, when God created the earth in 6 days, it was just metaphorical. It was poetic. It wasn't actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. So what are your thoughts on that?
I know where the confusion comes from, and let me get those verses that we're talking about it off air. I know the confusion comes from some places in the Bible talking about to God a day is like 1,000 years, or 1,000 years is like a day, and people take those things and they think, okay, what if a day in Genesis is 1,000 years?
Mm-hmm.
Or they look at the prophecies in Daniel and think, okay, this is a prophetic, the 2,300 day prophecy.
Yeah.
Where people say that each day is a year. It's a year, so 2,300 years. And then they apply the same principle to Genesis, but context matters, right? Some books in the Bible, you can clearly tell they're poetic, they're prophetic. Psalm is poetic. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death.
Yeah.
Right? What is the valley of the shadow of death? You get what I'm saying?
Poetry, you know, it's a metaphor, you know.
Yeah, all poetic things. And I think even in Psalms, there's something that talks about evening and morning, like just similar to what Genesis says, but it's all in a poetic nature, so you can't take that too literal. And sometimes we try to make the Bible, okay, the Bible is not easy to read, but it's also not difficult to read, if you get me.
But it's also quite easy to confuse or
It's always-
misinterpret.
So sometimes we try to overcomplicate things because it's theology. We think, oh man,
There has to
Genesis
be something more.
there's a hidden meaning somewhere. There's a hidden meaning. Let's look at it.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we get too caught down into the theology or the intricacies, and because we get caught up in the intricacies of these theologies, we go to books where the Bible just wants us to be black and white, right?
Yeah.
Take it as it is, and we try to find like Genesis. God created the heavens and the earth. Okay, what's the Greek? What's the Greek for heavens? Maybe we've mistranslated and it means something.
Yeah.
I know it's all in jest, but that's what happens.
Yeah, and that's what, and that's why this comes in, where people believe that. I think even to believe that God did not actually create the earth in 6 days, you're almost taking away the power that God has. You're saying, you know, this is almost so impossible. And I think where this comes in is where people try to marry the evolution theory and the Big Bang theory with creation, saying, okay, maybe there was a Big Bang, and through the Big Bang, God created the earth, and it took several thousands years or billion years, and that's why it can't be literal 6 days. It has to be, you know, figurative, essentially. And the other thing I would say, like, within, when you look Genesis 1, it says after each day says, you know, then morning and evening came the first day. Then morning and evening came the second day. Then morning and evening came the third day. Like, I don't think those are just things that are just thrown in there to be like, oh, it's trying to confuse us. It's actually, then morning and evening came, then 1,000 years passed. Because there would have been, then 1,000 mornings passed and 1,000 evening passed the first day or something like that. So I think, as you said, we try to complicate things and we try and look for hidden meanings where there's no hidden meanings. And this is, I think, a debate that goes on within the Christian setting. You'll find people that, yes, they believe in creation, but they don't believe in the literal 6 days of creation. They think that's just figurative. You find people that actually do believe in the literal 6 days. Even within the Christian settings, there's controversy when it comes to creation. It's quite interesting to see like how much the devil can confuse us as human beings. Even when you think you have the truth, there's confusion within the truth itself. So it's quite interesting. And I think as we stand anyway, I stand with the 6 literal days. What do you stand with?
The 1 day is 1,000. 6 literal days.
The 6 literal days. And I think it will be quite interesting to have someone that believes like the opposite from that, to see what their mentality and their thinking and rationale is behind, 6 figurative days rather than literal days within there, and how they're interpreting those verses. The other thing I wanted to talk about here in the first chapter of Genesis is like, God just doesn't create us as humans. He gives us a commission. And what is that? Do you want to remind the people, or do you want me to read it again?
Well, like dominion, to take care of the earth, to take
Dominion, to take care of the earth. And I think as the years have progressed, and we hear a lot about, climate change, things are changing. And within the Christian setting, and within even us as SDS, you have some that believe in climate change, others that don't believe that that's a thing. I think it's just, it's made up, and there's no such things as climate change. Like, what are your thoughts around that?
Honestly, you remember COP26?
Mm-hmm.
COP26, where people were saying that it's within our own circle of beliefs. People were saying that this is they're using this as a masquerade to bring in the new world order, all these other things. It's a sign of the end times and so on. There's some Christians who believe that there's no point in climate change doesn't exist. There's no point in taking too much emphasis on taking care of the earth, because in the end God will destroy everything
Mm-hmm.
and create everything new, brand new. I'm like, but literally in Genesis, God, dominion doesn't mean that He gave us a oppressive power where we can do whatever we want and
Mm-hmm.
go and destroy all the creatures or the lives just for our own sake. What it means is that He will, just as God takes care of the universe, make sure that everything is in balance, right?
Yeah.
We also need to make sure that the earth is balanced, that we coexist with the creatures that God has created. Unfortunately, sin came into the world
Mm-hmm.
thanks to us,
Yeah.
and it means that these creatures do not want to coexist with us, or at least when they meet us. Look, animals, when they see a human, their responses are usually out of fear.
Yeah.
They're usually out of fear. They'll try to. Some animals will try to escape. Some will give you a warning, like stay back. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not interested in you.
Yeah.
And the only times that most of the times you hear animals attacking people is because we try to feed them and then they got tated and then they're like, give me some more, and it becomes an aggression thing, or because we've encroached into their territory
Yeah.
and so on, or they're defending the young and so on. Look, I eat meat, man. I eat meat. But look, listen. I'm going somewhere. I eat meat, man. And if I really want to take care of all these animals, maybe I should be vegetarian. Maybe I should be a vegetarian, right? Or
Maybe.
even vegan. But I think Christians will say, look, God is gonna create things new, so I shouldn't care about these
Mm-hmm.
things. I shouldn't care about electric cars. Yes, there's some controversy about electric cars where they get the
Mm-hmm.
metals for their
Yeah.
batteries and so on. Eh, And I understand that if that's your gripe, I completely understand that. But
Mm.
turning your blind eye to it just because the Bible says everything will be recreated
Yeah.
is wrong,
It's wrong.
because God gave us dominion over things. He wants us to take care of everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
He put Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden to take care of the Garden of Eden. They had, that was their responsibility. In these terms, you could say that was their job to do. You know, they didn't just put them there to enjoy and do whatever they wanted to do, which eventually they just did. But He gave them responsibility to look after the Garden of Eden and to look after the earth. You know, and I think as Christians, we also have been tasked or commissioned with that responsibility that we need to take care of the earth. Just like a home, you don't let your home just go out of, balance, rubbish everywhere. Some people, maybe that's how they live, but you take care of your home.
Mm.
And the earth is God's home to us. He gave us that home. He gave us the earth to live on, and we need to take care of it. We need to make sure, everything is in balance. We need to make sure, you're not even littering, staying conscious on what you're doing. And especially as the world is evolved, we've just continued to pollute and pollute and pollute and pollute the world even more with all the endless things that we're making and all the endless gases that we're giving off. And you can hear, different places have droughts and so on. And I think sometimes when people are in denial of climate change and all, because they're not personally affected by the effects of climate change.
Mm.
Because you can't deny that the people out there in the world, places out there that used to have plentiful of water, but now it's drought. They used
Yeah.
to have plenty of vegetation. It now doesn't exist. The world is changing, and it's changing for the worse. And partially is because us as humans, we haven't been taking good care of it. We haven't been taking good care
And the
of
funny
our home.
thing is, the earth is taking care of us. Like all the advances that we've made in the world, medicine, a lot of those things are people who've gone into the rainforest, found a new plant, and then found the extract from a new plant, and then they said, "Yeah, this can help us cure, or treat many things." The way penicillin was discovered.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, all these things. The earth, it doesn't speak to us directly. It doesn't speak to us in a human voice, but there's things there that have been put in place that they take care of us. It gives us food.
Yeah.
It takes care of us, but in return, we do not take care of it. Look at the rainforest in Brazil. Like I was in the Amazon last year, and the amount of rainforest that's just chopped away for growing like things like palm oil and so on
Mm-hmm.
that we use in our products. Um, it takes away from the biodiversity of the rainforest, which then which then kills a lot of animals. And we've just we've just turned our backs on it, and it affects countries where we come from. People are starving because there's not enough food to go
You don't
around.
feel the effects where it's happening, but you feel it somewhere here. And I think to act oblivious of that is just not an excuse. It is happening. It's just not affecting you directly, but the actions you can do can have an impact elsewhere. I think that's one thing we need to understand. But we can say that, within this chapter, that there's a lot of, let's say, controversies that can be brought out of. But what we can say is God's power, God's purposeful intention of creating the earth, and Him creating us as individuals, and also commissioning us to take care of what He's created. And I think it's every person's responsibility to think about, how can I best take care of the earth? How can I best look after my home that God has given me? So, just as we're wrapping up here, we can't skip creation without talking about the rest day, which is what we consider as the Sabbath. Obviously, we won't go deep into it. And again, I'll just ask, what are your thoughts? God created, everything in 6 days. Why did He need to rest on the seventh? Why was He resting? And why did He commission us to also rest on that day? He doesn't need to rest, does He?
God doesn't need to rest. Like, He's omniscient or powerful, right? So why does He need to rest? The main point, God was setting us an example, right?
Yeah.
We work 6 days, we do whatever. It's not when I say we do whatever we want, it means we dismiss God. God is not part of our lives for 6 days. God is still part of our life for 6 days. But He just asked for one day.
Yes.
One day for us to spend time with Him. We spend time with Him. We should still be spending time with Him throughout the week. But that day specifically for Him. And by resting, He gave us an example. Like, this is how I want you to do things.
Yes.
And I'm gonna be honest, right? I think we've taken this whole resting to like extreme levels.
In what way?
To the point some people won't even cook or on a sub. Personally, from my opinion, I think that's extreme, right? That's extreme. Yes, you want to prepare for the previous day and then make
sure.
Talk
about preparation for the Sabbath.
Yeah, you prepare for all of that stuff. But we need to, because I've seen an example where there's not enough food to feed people, and somebody says, okay, let me make a bit of rice, right, and some beans, and they're like, but it's a Sabbath. You get me? You're supposed to a day of rest. I think sometimes as humans we're very good at taking things and taking them to the extreme that God never wanted them to take. Never wanted them to take. But the overarching theme is that God wanted to set us an example. This day is for you and I to spend time together. An emphasis on you and I, not for you to just come and worship me. For you and I to spend time, spend time together.
Rest so that you can spend time with God. Yeah.
God walked with Adam and Eve in the garden. He walked with them and to show them that He's not just this faraway being.
And even if you take that out of context of creation and spirituality, rest is important to everyone. I think that's what God was also trying to highlight, that you can work and work and work and work and work, but you need to take rest once in a while, because you have people that are very driven, so rest is for the weak, this hustle mentality and hustle culture that we have right now, where people are working essentially themselves to death. And God is saying, throughout your busy life, I've given you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days to do anything you want to do, to, work, whatever you want to do. But on the seventh day, take time and rest. Rest your body, rest your mind, commune with me. Because we already talk about, God is the giver of all strength. And that's why I think it's important saying, come and commune with me, come and rest. Let us, worship together. That way you can be re-energized to take on the next day as well. So we can probably tackle, because what you just said there is not something that is also still quite, I'll say, controversial in the Christian sense, where I was saying, what can you and cannot do on a Sabbath? It is an entire
on the rest day,
on the rest day, which is an entire topic on its own and needs to be
just bring it up because God rested. He communed with people. Some people will even ask the question: is church necessary on the rest day? I've got a friend who views. He believes he's a Christian, right? He believes in God, so his belief in Christianity is not being shaken, right? But his way of resting is different because his experience of like Sabbath
Yeah.
is work. He feels like he does more work on a Sabbath than he does on his 9 to 5 job.
Hmm.
So for him, he even questions like,
What is rest?
what
Did
is
he
rest?
mean by rest?
Have churches taken, has the rest, the way the church is organized, does that take away from what the rest is?
Hmm.
Because people, you may not be physically drained, but you're mentally drained for some people.
Yeah, for some people that are like, let's say, church, the organizing and all that stuff, you do end up being very tired than you would be on a normal work day because of everything. You've filled it up with so many things, but you've done nothing, no sort of rest in that day. You have not actually even, sometimes you haven't even worshipped with God. You haven't even taken a moment to think about God, to worship and commune in His presence, but you've been so busy organizing everything, especially when it comes to church, that you haven't rested. So I think that one is a bigger topic that probably requires its own session to dig deeper and tackle it. But as we are concluding here, I just wanted to know, we're just as interesting as the story of creation is, what are some applications we can take away from it that we can apply in our day-to-day lives? Like when you walk out of here, what are you going to take out of the story of creation? Say, you know what, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start living life like this, or, even seeing life in this certain way. Is there any practical applications from this story? Is it just a nice to know type of story?
I don't know if there's things that practically, physically that I can do, but principles I could take away from it are things like, for example, the dominion that God has given us
Mhm.
over and to take care of the earth, right? Yeah, it's not something that I've greatly focused on in life, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that. So, uh, I believe in climate change. For
Mhm.
anybody who wants to know, I believe that we are taking the planet to extreme levels where it cannot cope, and there is clear evidence for that,
Mhm.
right? I'm also a big car fan. I'm especially petrol cars. I'm not an electric car fan, right?
Mhm.
Regardless of what the controversies that are around the electric cars, but in general, I just don't like electric cars. Yeah, but one thing I do need to understand that is that it's my duty to play my role in taking care of the planet because
Yeah.
the planet feeds me, gives me everything that I
Mhm.
need. So I need to give back, whether that is finding a more economical car,
Yeah.
right? Or
No car, just cycle, bro.
or simply just making sure that the rubbish I don't litter, do all these other things because this is the place that God has given us to live to live in, and He communes with us. Like God is with us here, not physically, but He's always with us, and He must give Him great sadness to look around and say, look at this rubbish that we're throwing, people littering. He's like,
Look at the state that my
look,
house is in.
the animals dying because of plastics in the sea, the ice caps melting. So that's one thing I take away. Another thing is that mainly creation just reminds me that your God can do anything. He can do anything. He can do whatever he wants.
Mhm.
He can do whatever he wants. He can click of a finger, spoken word,
Yeah.
and things will be done. And it reminds me that yo, when I ask for God for things, God can give me anything.
It's the power
He
to
has the power to give me
do
anything.
anything.
Doesn't mean He will give me what I ask for
Yeah.
because in His wisdom He knows what we need. But He has the power to do
Nothing
anything.
is impossible.
Nothing is impossible to Him. But this is topics for different time. But it also brings me great sadness because when you look at creation and the way we've moved away from it, like
Hmm.
some of the principles that we moved away from creation
Yeah.
and Genesis, which I know we will come through at some hopefully at another time. But yeah, so there's joy, seeing the power of God, seeing what we need to do as humans to take care of the earth, but there's
Hmm.
also sadness
Yeah.
because we're moving away from those things that God instituted
Yeah.
through creation.
I think so. I think you've covered a lot of the points that I had. Yeah. I think the one thing I would add is, the story of creation gives you a sense of identity and value. Most of us at one point or another will go through some existential crisis, where who knows what is happening in our life, but we'll start to question our existence. What's the purpose of me being in this world? Why am I here? And all those stuff. Was I an accident? What was I a random chance? And I think the story of creation highlights that, no, you aren't an accident. God intentionally created you to be here. It gives you a sense of value, a sense of belonging, and a sense of identity. I think which is what is lacking in this world. When you look at the story of evolution and Big Bang, it's just everything is by chance. It's by chance you are here, but no, God wanted you to be here. God wants you to be where you are. God created you with intentionality, and I think that's one thing I like about when you reflect on the story of creation. And the other thing is, which we'll discuss of last, is the importance of rest. I think we live in such a hustle culture, that rest is almost frowned upon. If you're not hustling, if you're not doing something, life is leaving you behind. You need to always be doing the next best thing for you to progress in this life. And I think that's a message that's pushed very hard. And it hits, I think, the younger you are, the more it hits you, because you're like, I have such limited time to make something of myself. I can't rest. And I think that sort of thinking leads people in a very, in not in such a great place. Even when you do achieve the things you want to achieve, you have given up so much of yourself and so much of your energy that you can't actually enjoy them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this highlights the importance of rest for us human beings, because even God took time to rest. Who are we not to say, we can't rest?
Yeah.
And also, it's not just any type of rest, it's rest from everything, but rest and communing with God, that He will give us the energy to do whatever we wish to do, obviously through God's will, as long as it's part of God's will. So I think that wraps up, our discussion on creation. I think it's a very interesting story. If you haven't read it, definitely go ahead and read it. And you don't know what you may pick up. And maybe even one day we may have people here to discuss it again. I don't know, do you have any closing remarks? Anything
No,
you wanna leave?
I just look forward to the rest of Genesis, because there's many things that yeah, there's just many things to talk about. Genesis creation is just the
Cherry on top.
tip of the iceberg.
Tip on the iceberg.
Tip of
Yes.
the iceberg.
Yeah.
The rest of the iceberg is under the waters. The big chunks that we don't
big
see.
chunks under the water. Yeah. So yeah, just to wrap up, I guess if you haven't read this Genesis chapter 1, do have a read. And I think it's quite an interesting chapter
Chapter
to
1
start off.
verse 1 to 30, not
Yeah.
the whole chapter.
Yeah, the whole chapter, verses 1 to 30, where it says 1 before it reaches chapter 2. Read all of it. So yeah, I think that's it. And we'll tackle the next one in the next episode, next chapter and the next episode. So don't miss out.
Yeah. Thank you very much.